Blake Lively's super shady legal tactic that set off war with Justin Baldoni before he even had a clue.
Blake Lively is freaking out after Justin Baldoni exposes her shady tactic of secretly subpoenaing private texts.
We finally got more information about that super shady subpoena, and Ron is back to discuss.
Through a fake lawsuit and leaking them to the media to boost her CRD complaint. The plan? Sneaky. The execution? Sloppy.
So there's a lot of really sketchy stuff going on.
And now, the court might toss all her evidence for straight-up abusive process.
Secretly put this whole thing out to defame and go after Justin.
It all kicked off around August. That's when her ex-PR sidekick, aka the mole in Justin Baldoni's team, packed her bags and dipped. And guess what? Just 1 month later, Blake suddenly wakes up and decides it's time to sue. Who? Nobody knows. Literally.
Anything they can do to use their power to shut up and intimidate and get control of Justin Baldoni. It sure looks like that's what Blake's been doing.
She files a lawsuit against John Doe's 110. 110. Yes. Blake Lively sued a bunch of question marks. She didn't know who she was suing, but she sued them anyway. That's not legal action. That's a grown woman throwing a tantrum with court papers.
Well, so it's interesting because now I have questions, because as we have both Brian Friedman and Lively's lawyers have sort of commented on this. Brian Friedman told the Daily Mail, this appears to be an end around, skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice.
And she didn't even file it under her real name. No. She went full undercover spy mode and used her married name, Blake Reynolds. But that wasn't enough. She didn't just sign as Blake Reynolds. She went full DIY mode and listed herself as CEO, CFO, secretary, and probably head of catering for this mystery company she was hiding behind. It's giving, I watched Suits once and now I'm a lawyer. Like, girl, calm down. You're not Aaron Brockovich. You're just bored and mad and rich.
It was owned by Blake Reynolds. Her married name as the chief CEO, secretary, financial officer, etc.
Now, let's talk about this little company she whipped out of thin air, Vanzen Inc. Ever heard of it? Neither had anyone else. That's because it had been dead for over a decade.
Well, we finally now have learned what this so-called case was that everyone's wondering, where did this come from? It was from a case from Vanzen Inc. versus John Doe's 1 through 10.
That's right. This company was inactive for 11 straight years. Not one product, not one service, not even a damn Instagram page. It just sat in legal limbo, collecting dust. Until suddenly, Blake needed to get justice and decided to resurrect it like some corporate zombie. Poof! The Walking Dead, but for subpoenas.
So it has now been confirmed that yes, this Vanzen versus the John Doe's is clearly a Blake Lively lawsuit, but clearly was filed without anybody's actual name.
Oh, and let's not forget who actually created Vanzen. It wasn't Blake, it was Eric Rothschild, originally formed in Delaware. Eventually, the company made its way to California, where it got forfeited. Want to know why? Because they didn't pay taxes and didn't file the proper paperwork. Basically, the state of California was like, yeah, this company is dead to us. And Blake? She looked at this illegal, inactive, tax-dodging ghost and went, perfect, this is my new legal weapon.
And more people did their due diligence to figure out, well, who's this Vanzen? As we sort of learned out that was a company of Blake Lively's.
Legally not in good standing? No problem. Blake just slapped some lipstick on this legal corpse and dragged it to New York to file a lawsuit like everything's fine. She pretended it was a legit, functioning business. It wasn't. It was an empty shell. And what's the cherry on top? Ryan Reynolds' name somehow gets roped into this circus too, because the address for Vanzen Inc. in the court filing just so happens to be his actual home address.
I don't even know how this is even legal. To me, this is outrageous what they filed. It is the most nonsensical thing you've seen.
Imagine trying to sip your gin and mind your business while your wife's out here dragging you into lawsuit limbo with her imaginary enemies. So what exactly did this lawsuit say? Oh, nothing important. Just vague mutterings about corporate disloyalty and unnamed violations. No timeline, no details, no actual people.
Someone left a comment on a video of mine yesterday, and thank you guys when you leave comments. I try to read them as best I can, as much as I can, but they said, the comment was left and it said that Without a Crystal Ball had found the lawsuit related to the subpoena. So
it was basically Blake filing a formal complaint that she had a bad vibe. Imagine suing someone and not even bothering to write down what they did. It's like she was trying to win Best Actress in a courtroom drama, except the script was blank.
Third parties for discovery fish for information that's off limit or out of scope. Damage reputations, and it's extremely unethical.
But here's where it gets juicy. Because this wasn't about winning the lawsuit. Blake wasn't looking for justice. She was looking for access. See, when you file a lawsuit, you get subpoena power. And that's all she really wanted. Once the lawsuit was filed, she got the green light to issue subpoenas. And guess who got one right in the face? Stephanie Jones.
And that's how they got these text messages. It doesn't mention sexual harassment, which is what Stephanie Jones' attorney said was the reason why they had to acquiesce to this subpoena, because it was involving sexual harassment.
Justin Baldoni's ex-PR girl, the same one who mysteriously jumped ship just a few weeks earlier. What a totally random coincidence. So Blake magically doesn't know who she's suing, but she knows exactly which phone number to target 4 days later. Sure, Jan. Now, Stephanie didn't even pretend to put up a fight. No objection, no hesitation. She just opened the vault and poured out emails, messages, probably screenshots, maybe even old grocery lists. Who knows?
Katz issued a subpoena to Baldoni's ex-publicist, Stephanie Jones, and her company, Joneswork, who had recently parted ways with the actor, demanding all documents and communications relating to Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their companies, and Baldoni.
She handed everything over like she was getting paid in hugs. And let's be honest, she probably was. Because that subpoena, it was a golden ticket to betray her entire former team. Loyalty? Never heard of her.
And the thing is, as I said before, why didn't they subpoena more people in Stephanie Jones' company? There was more people involved with Justin Baldoni. I mean, Stephanie Jones was also working with him.
But Blake didn't even try to keep up the act. She dropped the whole lawsuit like a hot potato on December 19th, 2024. Just 1 day after getting what she wanted from Stephanie. Like, girl, you couldn't even pretend to care about your fake case for another week? You literally used the court like a vending machine. Put in some papers, grabbed your dirt, and left. That's not legal action. That's elite-level pettiness with a filing fee.
So gave them confidential information, and she had a duty of care to protect Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer's private information. Stephanie Jones did not work for, I got myself mixed up the other day, and I was saying that like Stephanie Jones was working with Blake Lively, and which she technically is with this, but
Blake Lively sued Thin Air under a fake name, using a fake company that hadn't been used in over a decade, with tax issues, in another state, filed a case with no real people in it, issued a subpoena to the one person she mysteriously already knew to target, got private dirt, dropped the case, all while pretending it was about justice.
The company that was used to file the lawsuit, first of all, it's a defunct company of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and it sues no one.
This isn't legal strategy. It's Real Housewives of litigation. It's petty, it's sneaky, and it's falling apart in real time. And honestly, she deserves every bit of that courtroom karma heading her way. Stephanie Jones. Sweet Stephanie.
And it's frustrating, right? Because the date, just 4 days after the filing, they issued the subpoena to Stephanie Jones, who willingly did it because Stephanie Jones had an axe to grind with everybody else.
The woman who walked out of Justin Baldoni's PR team in August 2020 and walked straight into Blake Lively's personal revenge tour like she was switching brands at Sephora. 1 minute, she's organizing Justin's press schedule. The next, she's the errand girl for subpoenas being issued from a ghost company.
Of Ryan Reynolds on public records is the same address as Vincent Inc. In the court documents. Also, these court documents are filed by the same lawyers and the company that represents Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in their lawsuit against Justin Baldoni.
Because nothing screams integrity like handing out private messages behind your old client's back. We're not even sure if she paused for a coffee in between, selling out her former boss and becoming Blake's legal lapdog. And let's talk connections, because Hollywood is a small town dressed in Gucci. Stephanie just so happens to be married to Jason Huitz, a senior partner at, you guessed it, WME.
This is not over in any sense of the word. I think there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of questions asked by the Banat folks who signed this.
Now, WME just so happens to rep both Blake and Ryan Reynolds. But sure, Stephanie handing over private info from Baldoni's circle to the people her husband profits from is just a coincidence. Definitely nothing shady about that. Totally normal. Totally ethical, and pigs absolutely fly in Blake's backyard. Here's where it gets even grosser. Blake's hit list wasn't even wide. It wasn't a general investigation. No, this was a surgical strike. Out of the entire PR firm, only one person got subpoenaed, Jennifer A.L.
Trying to get the cell phone records from Jennifer Abel, they said they got a subpoena, which also allowed the New York Times to do this as well.
Like some CIA-level sniper mission, Blake's legal team zeroed in on one single phone, one single woman, and ripped her digital privacy to shreds. Forget casting a wide net. They didn't even bother with phishing. They just chucked a grenade into one office and walked away. Legal experts who still can't decide if they're disgusted or just in disbelief have a theory. Stephanie knew she had already violated her NDA with Wayfarer back in August 2024. So instead of owning up, she used Blake's sham lawsuit and subpoena to cure the breach.
If Stephanie Jones knew this and was not involved in any of this, she would have fought it and notified Wayfarer.
That's lawyer speak for. Let's pretend it wasn't illegal by making it look retroactively legal. And what a plan. The subpoena was the legal fig leaf over what was otherwise just a raw betrayal of confidentiality. Even worse, she didn't notify Justin. She didn't notify Wayfarer. She didn't send a warning, a heads up, not even a post-it note. She just coughed up a pile of private messages like it was Halloween, and Blake was dressed as a legal loophole. No resistance, no hesitation. Just here you go. Please ruin my ex-client's career. We love a traitor with initiative.
Vansan Inc., an active, possibly inactive company, is used as a front and has no active relationship with anyone in this scenario, is used to harass and intimidate third parties for discovery.
But Blake wasn't finished. Oh no. Because once those messages were in her hands, she didn't just sit on them. She did what any desperate celebrity would do. She ran to the press. Blake filed her official CRD complaint on December 20th, and like clockwork, those leaked, cherry-picked, context-free texts ended up in the New York Times. It was the most conveniently timed media hit since Kris Jenner invented the family scandal.
And an apparent plot to seize damning text messages from his publicist. The filing allowed her attorneys to issue a subpoena for the embarrassing text and then drop the lawsuit, all without Baldoni's team knowing it even existed.
Just days later, the article dropped like a tactical PR nuke, blasting Baldoni's image with language that suggested he was a manipulator, a predator, and everything else the Times could squeeze into a headline without getting sued. And not a single word about how they got that information. No mention of the shady subpoena, no hint of the zombie lawsuit filed by a shell company with a tax problem. Just bold accusations, carefully staged quotes, and the soft jazz of plausible deniability.
But now we're seeing Blake actually do it with these sort of shady tactics.
Meanwhile, Deadline and Daily Mail, normally two gossip gladiators who would have killed to expose something like this, played dumb. They had the documents, they knew who filed the lawsuit, but they held it all back.
Now, a Daily Mail investigation has uncovered the full story behind the obscure suit, which was filed without names of the defendants by a company owned by Lively in an apparent bid to avoid detection. Legal experts say the case appeared to be a sham lawsuit, with one describing it as super shady.
Why? Oh, right. Because they were protecting the Lively Reynolds PR fantasy. No one wants to burn the bridge that leads to exclusive cover stories and those candid Instagram photo shoots. So how did the NYT get it so wrong? Simple. Blake's team served them the narrative like a 5-star meal. But what they really got was microwave drama reheated from chopped up text threads.
I don't think these text messages are damning, nor are they embarrassing. They're taken out of context. They don't really say anything. They don't prove her claims, nothing.
Context, gone. Emotional nuance, deleted. Explanation, who needs it? Blake's team turned full conversations into weaponized blurbs. They sliced and diced everything until Baldoni looked like the villain in Blake's personal courtroom soap opera. The NYT became her press secretary, whether they realized it or not. But now comes the part that should make every lawyer in Blake's camp start sweating through their designer suits. Because legal experts like Ron Zambrano and Peter Gleason aren't buying any of this. They've flat out said this whole setup reeks of a sham lawsuit, a legal pickpocketing, and an abusive process.
Legal experts say the case appeared to be a sham lawsuit, with one describing it as super shady.
Basically, they're saying Blake Lively turned the courtroom into a prop house for her reputation war. And that's not just shady, it's sanction-worthy. Enter Brian Friedman, Baldoni's legal pit bull, the man who does not miss. He's already gone on record saying Blake's team pulled an end around skirting the process. Translation, they cheated, and now they're about to get dragged for it. He's made it very clear they're planning to pursue every legal remedy available. And when Brian talks like that, people lose sleep.
Friedman said he had no knowledge about the lawsuit until Daily Mail contacted him to ask for comment. Lively's lawyers said the newly uncovered lawsuit was common and entirely appropriate, and accused Friedman of faux outrage. Guys, once you see the lawsuit, there is no faux outrage. They are ridiculous.
Let's be very clear. This isn't about messy drama anymore. This is about whether or not Blake's lawyers at Manat, Phelps & Phillips LLP knowingly misused the legal system to get NDA-protected material. If that's proven, game over. We're talking disqualification from the case. We're talking bar complaints. We're talking the kind of professional reputation crash that doesn't get fixed with a publicist or a charity gala.
Well, everything is public information. And the thing is, there's no other explanation for how Stephanie Jones could be subpoenaed. So someone here is saying that this is called a straw lawsuit, and it's common in celebrity lawsuits and ironically smear campaigns.
Because let's face it, Blake's lawyers didn't just bend the rules. They grabbed them, twisted them into balloon animals, and handed them to the judge like it was performance art. They took a company that legally wasn't even allowed to do business in California and used it to sue fake people in New York, all to get messages from one woman with a grudge. Then they dropped the case like it never existed. You can't call that strategy. That's a scam in heels.
Any lawyer will tell you, you do not file a complaint if you don't know the name of the person that you are suing, unless you're trying to protect that person's identity for some reason, which if you're pissed off enough to sue them, you probably don't care about their identity.
And now the system is waking up. Judges are asking questions. Journalists are connecting dots. And Brian Friedman is sharpening every tool in his legal toolbox. If it turns out these lawyers were part of the plan, and come on, they absolutely were, then they're not just going to lose this case. They're going to lose credibility, clients, and potentially their entire ability to practice. The legal endgame. If the judge decides this was, in fact, an abusive process, and honestly, what else could it be? Blake's entire case goes up in smoke. Poof, gone, because if those subpoenaed messages were pulled through shady means, they're inadmissible.
This appears to be an end around skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice. That would be an abuse of process, and we intend to take all action allowable under the law.
And without them, her CRD complaint is just a sad little Word doc with no proof and a whole lot of audacity. The same text she used to torch Justin Baldoni's name, instantly disqualified. Her whole playbook becomes toilet paper. No subpoena equals no texts equals no case. And what's left after that? Just Blake standing in the middle of the wreckage, holding the smoking gun she accidentally shot herself with.
There is no sexual harassment in this entire lawsuit. There actually are no real complaints. They don't have any facts. They don't have any persons. It just seems like a bunch of legal jargon thrown at the wall to see what will stick.
It's giving self-sabotage speed run. She wanted to destroy Baldoni, but instead, she might have nuked her own credibility so hard, even Vogue won't touch her. Imagine fighting this hard to win a case and ending up with a permanent seat in the What Not to Do in Court Hall of Fame.
Secretly put this whole thing out to defame and go after Justin.
And let's not forget, she's not escaping the courtroom anytime soon. Blake is locked in for a 7-hour deposition. 7 hours. That's longer than most of her movies. And there's no director yelling, "Cut" this time. Legal insiders already know what's coming. Her team is gonna beg the court to seal her testimony. Of course they will. Because the last thing they want is for the public to hear her try to explain this circus out loud. There's no Pinterest caption that's gonna save her from that transcript.
This is just like, it's so shady to me that they could do something like this. That's why I was like, I can't believe this. This is just too suspicious. This is just too crazy.
And let's not forget the Deadpool-sized elephant in the room. Ryan Reynolds' name is now part of this circus too. His home address was used as the legal front for Vans & Inc., the same ghost company his wife used to launch her fake lawsuit. So while he's out here cracking gin jokes on talk shows, his wife is legally spiraling in the background. Cute. You can't post couple goals on Instagram while your shared mailbox is the HQ for subpoena abuse.
Of harming Van Zandt's business and reputation, but did not specify what they did wrong.
Content creators, journalists, even the gossip outlets, they've flipped the script. No one's protecting Blake anymore. The narrative she tried to spin, Justin the villain, Blake the silenced heroine, it's collapsing because facts matter, receipts matter, and Blake's team left a breadcrumb trail of shady behavior so obvious, even TikTok lawyers are breaking it down like a true crime docuseries. The PR machine that once made her untouchable, now it's just coughing up smoke and broken NDAs.
So everyone's been speculating how was there a subpoena there if there was no legal implications at that point?
And now let's talk consequences. Because if this whole thing gets labeled what it truly is, legal fraud and designer heels, Blake's gonna lose more than a court case. Her fake lawsuit to real damage pipeline could hand her a buffet of punishments.
I believe in self-help in the current lawsuit that is in the New York District Court.
First up, sanctions. Cold, hard financial penalties that'll hit her team for wasting judicial resources on what was basically courtroom cosplay. Second, disqualification of her lawyers. If it's proven they helped orchestrate this mess, they're out. That's not a slap on the wrist. It's career death by ethics committee.
Third parties for discovery fish for information that's off limit or out of scope. Damage reputations, and it's extremely unethical.
Then there's the big one, defamation lawsuits. Baldoni, Wayfarer, even individual PR reps like Jennifer Ale could go after her. Because once you prove the information was illegally obtained and then used to orchestrate a public smear, that's not PR. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And in defamation law, intent is everything. Blake didn't just aim to win. She aimed to humiliate. And the court doesn't forget that.
Court papers show the shadow lawsuit was filed in Manhattan Supreme Court on September 27th last year by a company called Van Zandt. The lawsuit accused up to 10 unidentified individuals listed only as Does 1 through 10, so like Jane Doe, but then they put Does. It looks like Does.
And let's not act like this is happening in a vacuum. This is Blake Lively, time 100, honoree, feminist warrior, poster child for curated perfection. She built an entire career on being America's blonde, bubbly sweetheart. She wore moral high ground like a red carpet dress. But now it all looks like what it was. PR padding for someone who didn't have the receipts to back her reputation. The girl who once stood for women now stands accused of faking a lawsuit to destroy a man in secret. Iconic behavior.
They make third parties believe they're forced to comply when in reality, they don't have to and can fight it in court.
Blake didn't just show up to court. She tried to direct the entire production. And now that it's falling apart, she's still gripping the boom mic like she's got a role to play. But the judge isn't casting this movie. The judge is watching the timeline, the fake lawsuit, the subpoena games, the media leaks, the contradictions. And the truth? It's not looking good for Blake's brand of justice. This isn't just about her losing a case. It's about Blake being exposed as the actress who thought she could turn subpoenas into screenplays. The courtroom isn't a soundstage. You don't get to improvise ethics and call it advocacy. And when this is over, nobody's going to remember the glamorous Instagram posts or Time covers. They're going to remember Blake Lively, the starlet who sued nobody, faked a lawsuit, and burned her whole empire trying to destroy someone else's. Blake tried to script a courtroom drama. Now she's the villain in her own legal horror show. Subscribe for more exposés like this and hit that bell so you don't miss a single twist.